Walk into the wrong saloon and you don't walk out. The Gunfighter wasn't just a Western. It was a death sentence on film, one man trying to escape his past, while every young gun wanted to take him down. But behind the camera, the battles were just as brutal. The studio hated the mustache. The ending got rewritten after test audiences revolted. And one actor, he refused to speak to Gregory Peck for the entire shoot. These are 20 weird facts about the Gunfighter. And wait for the bonus, because there's a deleted scene so dark, even the director said it went too far. Holster up, this showdown gets real. Gregory Peck didn't want to play Jimmy Ringo. Not at first. He'd just come off 12 O'Clock High, where he'd played a tortured bomber commander, and he was exhausted from carrying that kind of weight. When the script for the Gunfighter landed on his desk, he read it once, put it down, and told his agent no. Too depressing, too bleak. A man walking toward his own grave for 90 minutes. Where's the heroism in that? But then something shifted. Peck reread it late one night and realized Jimmy Ringo wasn't just another gunslinger. He was a man trapped by his own legend, suffocating under a reputation he couldn't escape. That hit different. Peck had spent years building his own image in Hollywood, the noble leading man, the moral center, and suddenly he saw the parallel. What happens when you can't outrun who people think you are? He called his agent back the next morning and said yes. But he had one condition. He wanted to look worn down, older, weathered by the years, no glamour, no polish. Just a man who'd lived too long in a world that wanted him dead. The studio agreed, barely. They had no idea what they were about to get, because when Peck showed up on set, he brought something they didn't expect, a mustache. And that's where the real fight began. The mustache nearly killed the movie. Gregory Peck showed up to the first day of shooting with a thick, drooping gunfighter's mustache. The kind outlaws wore in old photographs. Unkempt, heavy, real. He'd grown it specifically for the role because he believed Jimmy Ringo wouldn't look clean-shaven and movie star perfect. He'd look like a man who'd been riding hard for years with no time for vanity. Director Henry King saw it and loved it immediately. It made Peck look older, more dangerous, more tired. But when studio head Darryl F. Zanuck saw the dailies, he exploded. He called it the ugliest thing he'd ever seen on a leading man. He said it made Peck look like a villain, not a hero. He demanded it be shaved off. Peck refused. He told Zanuck that if the mustache went, so did he. It was a standoff. Zanuck threatened to shut down production. Peck didn't blink. Henry King stepped in and brokered a compromise. They'd shoot a test screening with the mustache and let the audience decide. If they hated it, Peck would shave. If they didn't, Zanuck would back off. The screening happened, and the audience didn't just dislike the mustache, they despised it. Comment cards came back brutal. Why does he look so dirty? Is he supposed to be the bad guy? Shave that thing off. Zanuck had the ammunition he needed, but by then, they'd already shot half the film. Reshoots would cost a fortune. So, the mustache stayed, and Zanuck never forgave Peck for it. Years later, he still called it the biggest mistake of the production. The script was written in a single weekend. Screenwriters William Bowers and Andre de Toth didn't labor over drafts for months. They locked themselves in a room, drank coffee until dawn, and hammered out the entire story in 2 days. It wasn't planned, it was desperation. Bowers had been wrestling with the idea of a gunfighter who couldn't escape his past for years, but nothing clicked. Then de Toth, who was also a director, suggested a simple structure. Real time, 90 minutes in a man's life, no flashbacks, no backstory dumps, just a man walking into a town and waiting to die. Once they had that framework, the words poured out. They wrote Jimmy Ringo as a ghost, a man already dead, who just hasn't fallen yet. They gave him no redemption arc, no last-minute heroics, just inevitability. When they finished, they handed it to producer Nunnally Johnson, who read it in one sitting and immediately sent it to Gregory Peck. The speed of the writing gave the script a raw, unpolished energy. There were no wasted scenes, no filler. Every line mattered because they didn't have time to write anything that didn't. And that urgency translated to the screen. The Gunfighter moves like a ticking clock because it was written like one. Fast, brutal, and with no way out. What took 2 days to write became one of the most influential westerns ever made. Sometimes the best scripts aren't labored over. They're ripped out before doubt can kill them. Millard Mitchell played the marshal, and he hated Gregory Peck. Not because of anything Peck did, but because Mitchell believed he should have been the star. He'd been grinding in character roles for years, always the sidekick, always second billing, and when the Gunfighter came along, he thought he finally had a shot at the lead. He pushed hard for the role of Jimmy Ringo. He met with Henry King, did a screen test, prepared a whole performance. But the studio wanted a name, and Peck was the biggest there was. Mitchell got cast as the Marshal instead, a supporting role with great scenes but no spotlight. He showed up to set bitter. He wouldn't make eye contact with Peck. Between takes, he'd walk away. In their scenes together, he'd deliver his lines and leave. No small talk, no camaraderie. Peck tried to break the ice a few times, complimenting Mitchell's work, inviting him to lunch. Mitchell declined every time. Henry King noticed but didn't intervene. He figured the tension worked for the story. The Marshal is supposed to be wary of Ringo, conflicted about protecting him, and Mitchell's cold distance made that ride as authentic. Ironically, Mitchell gave one of the best performances of his career. His quiet bitterness became the Marshal's moral weight. And when the film became a hit, critics singled out Mitchell's work as a standout. He finally got recognition, just not the way he wanted. He never spoke to Peck again after production wrapped, not out of continued anger, but because there was nothing left to say. The original ending had Jimmy Ringo survive. In early drafts, the final shootout ended with Ringo wounding his attacker and walking out of the saloon alive. Beaten, yes, exhausted, sure, but breathing. He'd ride out of town, still haunted, still hunted, but with a chance at something more. Henry King shot that version, it tested with audiences, and they hated it. Not because it was bad, but because it felt wrong. Test screening cards came back furious. People said the whole movie built toward Ringo's death. His doom was sewn into every scene, every conversation. For him to survive felt like a cheat, a Hollywood cop-out that undercut the entire point. One card reportedly read, "If he doesn't die, this movie is a lie." King and the writers knew they had a problem. Nunnally Johnson went back to the typewriter and rewrote the ending. This time, Ringo dies, shot in the back by a cocky young gunslinger who wanted the glory. It was brutal, unfair, and exactly what the story needed. They reshot the sequence in 2 days. When the new ending screened, audiences sat in stunned silence. No applause, just quiet, and that silence told them everything. It worked. The Gunfighter became one of the first major Hollywood films to kill its hero without redemption. It broke the formula, and it did it because the audience demanded honesty over comfort. Sometimes the crowd knows what the story needs better than the people making it. The bar set was built with real wood from an 1880s saloon. Henry King didn't want a Hollywood backlot fake. He wanted texture, history, authenticity. So, the production team tracked down a shuttered saloon in Nevada, one that had been standing since the actual Old West. They bought it, dismantled it piece by piece, and hauled the wood back to the Fox lot. Every beam, every plank, every worn floorboard. Then they rebuilt it exactly as it had been, preserving the scars, the bullet holes, the stains. When Gregory Peck walked onto that set for the first time, he said it smelled like the past, dust and whiskey and something older. The actors felt it too. The space didn't feel like a set. It felt like a place where men had lived, fought, and died. That weight seeped into the performances. When Ringo sits at the bar, waiting, the stillness feels haunted because the room itself carried ghosts. Henry King later said it was the most expensive set decision he ever made. But also, the most important. You can fake a lot in movies. You can paint backdrops, dress extras, light scenes to look real. But you can't fake the feeling of walking into a space that's seen violence. That saloon had. And every actor who stepped inside knew it. The wood remembered, and so did the camera. It's one reason why the Gunfighter still feels tangible decades later, because some of it was. Jean Parker was supposed to play Peggy, Ringo's estranged wife. She was cast, contracted, ready to go. But a week before shooting, she dropped out. No explanation, no public statement, just gone. Some said she got a better offer. Others whispered that she didn't want to play a woman pining for a man who'd abandoned her. Whatever the reason, the studio panicked. They needed someone fast. Helen Westcott got the call. She was young, relatively unknown, and had exactly 2 days to prepare. She didn't get a table read. She didn't get rehearsals with Gregory Peck. She showed up on set, met him for the first time between takes, and shot their scenes cold. And somehow, it worked. The The distance between them felt real. Peggy and Ringo are supposed to be strangers trapped by shared history. Westcott and Peck were strangers pretending to have one. That awkwardness, that stiffness, it played as heartbreak. When she tells him she's moved on, the pain in his face isn't just acting. It's Peck responding to an actress he barely knows, delivering lines that cut. Henry King kept every take. He didn't try to manufacture chemistry because the lack of it told the truth. Some loves don't survive. Some people drift so far apart they can't find their way back. Westcott never became a star, but in The Gunfighter, she gave a performance that felt more honest than Polish ever could, because she didn't have time to fake it. There's a kid in the film who idolizes Ringo. His name is Eddie, and he's played by a young actor named Skip Homeister. He's wide-eyed, eager, desperate to prove he's fast enough to matter. And in one scene, he challenges Ringo to draw. It's tense, it's uncomfortable, and it nearly turned deadly for real. During rehearsals, the prop guns weren't loaded, obviously, but Homeister, trying to sell the scene, drew fast, too fast. The gun slipped from his hand and fired, a blank, but loud enough to make everyone freeze. The muzzle flash hit the wall 6 inches from Gregory Peck's head. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Peck, calm as ever, looked at Homeister and said, "Kid, if you're gonna kill me, at least wait till we're rolling." The crew laughed, but it was nervous laughter. Henry King called a safety meeting. New rules, no drawing weapons during rehearsals, no exceptions. Homeister was shaken. He thought he'd blown his career before it started, but Peck didn't hold it against him. Between takes, he pulled the kid aside and walked him through the mechanics of handling a gun on camera. Slow, controlled, deliberate. When they shot the scene for real, Homeister nailed it. That moment of tension, the fear in his eyes, it's real. Because hours earlier, he'd almost shot Gregory Peck in the face. And both of them knew it. Sometimes the best performances come from actors who've tasted real danger and learned to respect it. The town of Cayenne, where the entire film takes place, doesn't exist. It never did. But Henry King wanted it to feel real, lived in, believable. So instead of building a massive Western town set, he used a single street, one row of buildings, a saloon, a hotel, a general store, a sheriff's office. That's it. And he shot everything from angles that made it look bigger. The camera never pulled back wide enough to reveal the edges. It stayed tight, claustrophobic, trapping the audience in the same space where Ringo is trapped. There are no sweeping vistas, no open frontier, just walls closing in. King later said the decision was partly budgetary, but mostly psychological. The Gunfighter isn't about the West. It's about a man with nowhere to run. So why show him space? The town had to feel small, suffocating, inescapable. And it worked. When Ringo walks down that street, you feel the weight of every window, every door, every shadow where someone might be watching, waiting. The limitation became the style, and that style influenced Westerns for decades. High Noon borrowed it. The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance borrowed it. Even Unforgiven borrowed it. The idea that a Western doesn't need to be big to feel powerful. Sometimes, the smaller the cage, the more you feel the bars. Cayenne isn't real, but it feels more real than towns built twice its size, because it was built to trap, not to impress. The fastest draw in the film wasn't Gregory Peck. It was a stuntman named Arvo Ojala, and he was the fastest gun handler in Hollywood. He trained every actor on set, teaching them how to draw, how to aim, how to make it look real without looking rehearsed. But he didn't just teach, he performed. In several close-up shots, when you see a hand drop to a holster and pull iron in a blur, that's not Peck, it's Ojala. His hands were so fast, the camera could barely catch the motion. He could draw, cock, and fire a single-action revolver in less than half a second, faster than most people could blink. Henry King loved using him because Ojala made the violence feel instant. No telegraphing, no wind-up, just death arriving before you realized it was coming. And that's what The Gunfighter needed. The film's entire thesis is that gunfights aren't heroic. They're quick, brutal, and over before glory ever shows up. Peck understood that. He didn't try to match Ojala's speed. He played Ringo as a man who was fast once, but now he's just tired. He knows he can still win. He just doesn't want to anymore. The contrast between Ojala's lightning draws and Peck's weary reluctance became the soul of the film. Speed kills. But living with it, that's the real tragedy. The famous opening shot, where the camera pushes in on the saloon, was nearly impossible to film. Henry King wanted a slow, creeping zoom that felt like death approaching. But in 1950, camera technology wasn't built for smooth, sustained movement like that. The dolly tracks had to be perfectly level. The camera operator had to push at an exact speed, and any vibration would ruin the shot. They tried it 17 times. 17. Each time, something went wrong. A bump in the track, a wobble in the lens, an extra moving too early in the background. The crew was exhausted. Gregory Peck was sitting in costume, waiting, watching them reset again and again. Finally, on take 18, everything aligned. The camera glided forward like a predator stalking prey. The saloon doors filled the frame, and inside, Jimmy Ringo sat alone, already a ghost. King called cut and didn't say a word. He just nodded. They'd gotten it. That single shot set the tone for the entire film. Slow, inevitable, inescapable. Modern audiences don't realize how hard it was to achieve because it looks effortless. But the camera crew knew. They'd spent an entire day chasing one perfect shot. And when they finally captured it, they'd captured the soul of the movie. Everything that follows is just Jimmy Ringo waiting for that same slow approach. Death coming in, smooth, steady, and impossible to stop. The opening shot promised it. The ending delivered. Karl Malden almost played the young gunslinger who kills Ringo. He auditioned for the role of Hunt Bromley, the cocky kid desperate for a reputation. He was intense, committed, hungry for the part. But Henry King turned him down. Not because Malden wasn't good enough, but because he was too good. King said Malden had too much presence, too much weight. If he played the killer, audiences would see him as a worthy adversary, maybe even sympathize with him. But the whole point of the ending was that Ringo doesn't die at the hands of a legend. He dies because of a nobody, a punk kid with fast hands and no understanding of what he's really taking. The killer had to be forgettable, disposable, someone the audience would hate precisely because he wasn't worth Ringo's death. So King cast Skip Homeyer instead, a young actor with a baby face and nervous energy. He looked like a boy playing cowboy. And that made the ending even more tragic. When Homeyer shoots Ringo in the back, it's not a duel, it's murder, cheap, cowardly, meaningless. Malden was devastated. He'd wanted that role badly, but years later, he admitted King was right. The Gunfighter worked because the killer wasn't memorable. He was just the cost of living too long in a world that worshipped violence. Sometimes casting the wrong actor is the right choice. The film was shot in 23 days, not months, days. Henry King ran the set like a military operation. No wasted takes, no indulgent coverage. He blocked scenes quickly, rehearsed once, then rolled camera. If an actor flubbed a line, they'd go again. But if the emotion was right, King kept it. He told the cast that mistakes are human and Jimmy Ringo is human, so let the cracks show. Gregory Peck thrived under that pressure. He didn't have time to overthink, he just had to be. Some of his best moments in the film are first takes, raw, unrehearsed, real. The scene where Ringo talks to his son through a back door, never seeing the boy's face, that was one take. Peck didn't know how it would feel until he said the lines out loud. And when he finished, there were tears in his eyes that weren't in the script. King saw it, knew it was perfect, and moved on. No second take, no safety, just trust. The 23-day schedule also meant the crew stayed sharp. There was no time to get bored, no time for the energy to sag. Everyone was sprinting toward the finish. And that urgency is baked into the film. The Gunfighter doesn't waste a frame. Every scene matters. Every word counts. Because they didn't have time to shoot anything that didn't. Fast shoots aren't always sloppy. Sometimes they're pure instinct. And instinct, when guided by a master like Henry King, can create something timeless. The studio wanted a happy ending so badly, they shot 2 versions. Even after test audiences demanded Ringo's death, executives at Fox weren't convinced. They believed a downbeat ending would hurt box office. So Darryl F. Zanuck ordered Henry King to shoot an alternate version where Ringo survives, recovers, and rides off with a chance at redemption. King was furious, but he complied. He reshot the final sequence with Ringo, wounded but alive, carried out of the saloon by the marshal and a doctor. The townspeople gather. Peggy rushes to his side. There's hope. It's soft. It's safe. It's everything the film isn't. When both versions were finished, Zanuck screened them back to back for a select group of theater owners and critics. He wanted their opinion on which to release. The reaction was unanimous. The happy ending killed the movie. One critic reportedly said, "You've turned a masterpiece into a matinee." The theater owners agreed. They said audiences were tired of predictable westerns. They wanted something real, something that hurt. Zanuck didn't like it, but he listened. The version where Ringo dies became the official cut. The alternate ending was locked in a vault and never spoken of again. For decades, fans didn't even know it existed. It wasn't until archivists went through Fox's vaults in the 1980s that the footage resurfaced. And when it did, everyone agreed. The studio had been wrong. Ringo had to die. Because legends don't retire, they get buried. During production, Gregory Peck received death threats. Real ones. Letters arrived at the studio, some with no return address, others signed with fake names. They said things like, "You're making heroes out of killers," and "Gunfighters should burn in hell, not get movie deals." One letter reportedly included a bullet. Peck never talked about it publicly, but Henry King confirmed it years later. The threats didn't come from anti-violence groups. They came from people who'd lived through the real Old West, or had family who did. To them, gunfighters weren't tragic anti-heroes. They were murderers, thugs, men who killed for sport and called it honor. And seeing Gregory Peck, a respected actor, play one with sympathy felt like betrayal. Studio security stepped up. Peck got a guard during shoots. His mail was screened, but he refused to let it change his performance. He told King, "If they hate Ringo, good. He's not supposed to be likable. He's supposed to be real." And that's what scared people. The Gunfighter didn't glorify violence. It showed the emptiness of it, but some viewers couldn't separate the portrayal from endorsement. They saw a man with a gun on screen and assumed the film was celebrating him. It wasn't. It was burying him. Slowly, painfully, honestly. The death threats stopped after the film's release. Maybe because people finally understood what Peck and King were trying to say, or maybe because they just moved on to the next thing to hate. There was a massive saloon brawl that never made it into the film. In the original script, a drunk cowboy picks a fight with Ringo, and it escalates into a full bar fight. Chairs smashed, tables flipped, bottles broken. Henry King shot the entire sequence over 2 days. The stunt team choreographed a wild, brutal fight that left the set destroyed. But when King watched the dailies, he realized it was a mistake. The Gunfighter isn't about action. It's about waiting, about tension, about a man sitting still while violence circles him like a shark. The brawl broke that mood. It turned Ringo into an action hero, someone who fights his way out. But the whole point was that he doesn't fight. He just endures. King cut the entire sequence. Not a single frame made the final film. The studio was furious. They'd spent money on stunts, breakaway furniture, extra shooting days, all for nothing. But King didn't budge. He said, "This isn't a movie about what Ringo does. It's about what he doesn't do." And he was right. The Gunfighter works because Ringo is passive. He sits, he waits, he talks, and then he dies. No fists, no heroics, just inevitability. The deleted brawl would have turned the Gunfighter into just another Western. Instead, it became something different, something quiet, something that trusted silence more than spectacle. The footage still exists in the Fox archives, but it's never been restored. King made sure of that. The cinematographer, Arthur Miller, collapsed on set from heat stroke. The production was filming in the middle of summer on a closed soundstage. No air conditioning, just hot lights, heavy costumes, and a saloon set built from old wood that seemed to trap every degree of heat. Miller had been operating the camera for 12 hours straight, squinting through the eyepiece, adjusting exposures, chasing shadows. He was a perfectionist, known for pushing himself harder than anyone else. But on day 16, his body gave out. He stumbled backward, dropped to one knee, then hit the floor. The crew rushed over. Someone called a medic. Gregory Peck brought water. Miller was drenched in sweat, pale, barely conscious. They carried him off set and told him to go home, rest, take a week off. He refused. He was back the next morning, slower but stubborn. Henry King tried to replace him with a backup cameraman, but Miller wouldn't allow it. He said, "This is my film. I'm finishing it." And he did. Every frame of the Gunfighter was shot by Arthur Miller, even the ones that nearly killed him. His work earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Cinematography. He didn't win, but he didn't care, because what he captured, that shadowy, noir-lit Western world where every face looks haunted, that was his masterpiece, and he'd crawled through hell to deliver it. The clock in the saloon was a real antique from 1870, and it didn't work. The production team bought it from an estate sale, thinking it would add authenticity. It looked perfect, ornate, weathered, the kind of clock that had seen decades of hard living. But when they tried to wind it, nothing happened. The gears were frozen, rusted, dead. They brought in a clockmaker to fix it, but he said it was beyond repair. So, the crew did what film crews do. They faked it. They mounted the clock on the wall, and every time a scene required it to show the passage of time, a crew member would manually move the hands between takes. It's subtle, but if you watch closely, the clock and the gunfighter never moves during a scene, only between them. It became a perfect metaphor for the film. Time isn't passing, it's frozen. Ringo is stuck in a moment that won't end until a bullet does. The broken clock wasn't planned symbolism. It was a production accident, but Henry King loved it. He later said, "That clock was as dead as Ringo. It just hadn't stopped ticking yet." When the film wrapped, Gregory Peck asked if he could buy the clock as a souvenir. The gun used in the final scene misfired, and they kept rolling. In the climactic moment when Hunt Bromley shoots Jimmy Ringo in the back, the prop gun was supposed to fire a blank and produce a flash. But something went wrong. The blank didn't ignite. The trigger clicked. Nothing happened. Skip Homeyer froze. He didn't know what to do. But Gregory Peck, ever the professional, reacted anyway. He lurched forward, grabbed his side, sold the hit like he'd been shot. The scene kept going. The other actors followed Peck's lead. The marshal spun around. The crowd gasped. Ringo collapsed. And only after King yelled "cut" did everyone realize what happened. The gun hadn't fired, but Peck had saved the take. Henry King watched the playback and made a decision. Keep it. He said the silent misfire made the death feel more real. No loud bang, no dramatic flash. Just a man falling and everyone realizing too late what happened. They added the gunshot in the post-production, a muffled crack that sounds distant, almost accidental. It's one of the most effective moments in the film. Quiet, brutal, over before you process it. When The Gunfighter premiered, John Wayne walked out. Not because he hated it, because it scared him. Wayne was in the audience opening night. He'd heard about the film, heard it was different, darker. He sat through the first hour in silence, watching Jimmy Ringo sit in that saloon, surrounded by people who wanted him dead, waiting for the inevitable. And then came the ending. Ringo, shot in the back, dying on the floor, no redemption, no glory. Just a man bleeding out while a kid who didn't understand what he'd done stood there shaking. The lights came up, Wayne stood, walked out without a word, and didn't speak to anyone about it for weeks. Later, a journalist asked him what he thought of The Gunfighter. Wayne said, "It's the most honest Western ever made, and I never want to see it again." He explained that the film showed the truth of what men like Ringo really were. Not heroes, not legends, just men who'd lived by violence and died by it. And that truth made every other Western, including his own, feel like a lie. Wayne never publicly criticized The Gunfighter, but he also never praised it, because praising it would mean admitting that the cowboy myth he'd built a career on was exactly that, a myth. And myths die hard. The Gunfighter killed them softly,